Hey, it's me. Our special guest, John Poveromo, is a comedian. Born in Brooklyn, but raised in Jersey, he's been featured in the New York Times and the Asbury Park Press. He's performed his stand-up at such places as the Jersey City Comedy Festival, the New York Underground Comedy Festival. He's also author of the book, Drawings from a Nobody. John, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks, man. Glad to be here.
So how are you doing today?
I am great, man. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing okay. How hard is it to be a comedian?
Oh, man. It's hard. It's one of those things that but when you start out doing it, it's hard to describe to anybody who hasn't been on stage before or, who has done anything because, they usually think it's just you telling jokes on stage. But it'd be like if every time you went into a new job for the first time, there were people there just judging you every day, almost every 12 seconds on your performance and didn't give you a chance to learn. And that's basically it. But when you first start out, whether you want to do it or not, because you usually just bomb. And how many people go back to something that they're just completely not good at over and over again in front of 200 people a night, But yeah, there's always a level to it that's a little harder.
What would you say is the best part about being a comedian?
The best part, oh man, I love the traveling. I like going to different states and performing in front of different groups of people and all over the country and stuff like that. That's the most fun, I think.
What would you say is the toughest part about being a comedian?
Also the travel.
Yeah.
It can be fun, but sometimes it's just long nights, coming back home, trying to stay awake. So that's what it is now. In the beginning, when you're starting out, the toughest part is trying to build your act and trying to find your voice and get stage time. And then once you get all that stuff, there's other things that become difficult.
What do you do when you're a comedian and the crowd is just not feeling it?
When the crowd's not feeling it, you just kind of go, you can do one of two things. Either plow through your set, and you just do your time and then get off stage, or what's the deal with the crowd? Just or whatever the deal is. And I try to switch up and try to talk to them.
So tell us about this book of yours, Drawings from a Nobody.
It started when, I was always good at drawing when I was younger and stuff. And one of the things I wanted to be when I was a kid was a cartoonist. I was either a cartoonist or comedian, I think. So this just came out of being bored in hotel rooms, before I had to go on later that night. And I would just occupy my time by drawing. So I would draw political or social commentary cartoons and stuff like that and post them on my Instagram and my website. Then I decided to put them into a book because I wanted to see, if there was another way I could disappoint my family by not making any money. So the book seemed like a good way to go.
Well, I was actually curious about that. How does your family respond, your parents, to this decision of yours to go into the entertainment business?
They were supportive. They just, at this point, I think they just didn't want me to waste my time doing anything I didn't want to do. So, but my mom worries still to this day about, what about money? What about this? What about that? So it's, they're supportive, but at the same time, they're they still worry about it.
Mm-hmm. It would be correct to assume that you're of Italian descent.
I am, yes.
So tell us about that. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing and a little bit about your family.
My mom's family. So yeah, my mom's family grew up in Brooklyn pretty much. She was born in Queens, but she grew up, in Brooklyn. And my dad's family never left Brooklyn. They eventually split up when they were older, but they were all from Brooklyn. And now they live in Staten Island or Long Island or whatever. My dad has a huge family. My mom's family is kind of small, and they divorced eventually. But yeah, it was Italian. I was always around people, there's the matriarch of the family, and my great grandmother was like that. So everybody was always over at her house. And same thing with my dad's mother. Everybody kind of met there. So I always just had people around me all the time, just giant Italian family. And now it's kind of interesting just because of the political atmosphere. You're kind of finding out where people stand. It's super weird. Some of my dad's family, they're Trump supporters, mm-hmm. but I don't think they're Trump supporters necessarily as much as they dislike immigrants, which is weird because if you ever ask them where they're from, they're they're just really proud. They're like, oh yeah, our grandparents straight off the boat. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yeah, I was like, you're saying you're the children of immigrants, but Could just be me. I don't know.
Well, that's something that's definitely true about every American being an immigrant or the ancestor of a recent immigrant for the most part. But how quickly we forget.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to ask you, do you have a relationship?
Like, you know, I was gonna. I'm single now. I've been in and out of relationships, stuff like that, but I prefer to remain single while I'm doing this kind of stuff. You know, just because it doesn't pay to, for me anyway, personally, to like, you know, try to settle down or anything like that. I'm always on the road. I'm always busy, and it doesn't work for me. So I steer clear of it.
Do you get lonely?
Oddly enough, no. I was always like a social butterfly when I was like in my teens and 20s and stuff like that, and have tons of friends to hang out with, and always find somebody who's kind of single, like friends with benefits thing and stuff like that. But no, I never really get lonely. I actually kind of like my downtime. I like waking up in a bed by myself, and I like being able to do whatever I want whenever I want. So no, I enjoy it. I have a little bit of both.
Who would you say are the comedians who have had the biggest influence on you?
When I was a kid, Robin Williams was the end all be all of comedians for me. And I think he was kind of like my gateway drug into comedy, because I didn't know who he was. You know, I just saw him on like TV, like Mork and Mindy when I was a kid, or, you know, he did the voice of the genie in Aladdin. And then I found out he was a stand-up, and then I kind of started looking into stand-ups and stuff. And from him, you know, I found, oddly enough, my first two comedy albums couldn't be farther away on the spectrum. It was like Seinfeld and Robin Williams. Robin Williams live at the Met, and then Seinfeld when he did his first HBO special, the whatchamacallit, I'm Telling You for the Last Time.
Yeah.
So I used to listen to those two and just die laughing. And then, you know, when I got older, just the guys that are on the road now, Bill Burr is one of the best that's working right now. You know, Kurt Metzger is very, very funny. Jay Ogerson, Jim Norton, all those guys are just hilarious. And then there's Maria Bamford and Brian Regan, and, you know, all those guys working today are great.
Is there another comedian that you would say is most like you?
Is most like me? I guess I feel like I'm a combination of a few different comedians. Man, that's a tough question. I actually don't. I've never had somebody ask me that question before. Is there a comedian that's most like me? I would say maybe like observationally, almost like almost like a Seinfeld, but like faster paced and a little bit, I guess the topics are a little bit different. So it's maybe like that. You know what I mean? I actually don't even actually know. That's a good question. I'm going to think about that one. But maybe like observation, like a Seinfeld, and then a little bit like a mix of like a Richard Jenny, like something like that. I have no idea. It's a good question. That one up.
Oh, it's okay. Is there a community amongst comedians? Do you feel a kinship with other comics?
Yeah, you do. Even if you don't, like, there's, you know, even if you're meeting somebody for the first time or working with them for the first time, you automatically get a sense of they've been through the same thing you have. So, like, you know, they know what it's like. They're the only ones who know what it's like when a joke bombs. They're the only ones who knows what it's like to be on the road or be in hotel after hotel, or, you know, missing being home, or, you know, having a up audience, or just having a great night too. Just so, yeah, there's a bond there.
On your website, it's johnpoveromo.net, and people can see the upcoming shows that you've got. Is there any upcoming shows you'd like to tell our audience about?
Yeah, I've got one coming up locally, which is cool. I hope my friends can come out in New Jersey. It's at Jenkinson's on the Boardwalk in Point Pleasant. It's on the 26th.
June 26th.
At 8 p.m. Yep.
Is there a favorite place for you to perform?
Yeah, I always kind of stick with the club that I started in when I was younger. You know, it's basically my home club. It's Bananas Comedy Club in New Jersey, in Asbury Heights, New Jersey. It was the first time I opened for Jimmy Fallon there, and then a couple other national headliners they always had me open for. So it's my favorite place.
So you got to meet Jimmy Fallon?
Yeah, we did 5 shows together.
What did you find him to be like?
Exactly like he is on his talk show. He's extremely nice and funny and just approachable and just like a regular dude. He's great. He's a blast.
Throughout your time performing comedy, has there been somebody that you've met, a fellow comic, that you would say was the most helpful, the most, I don't know, congenial?
Yeah. My buddy Joe Starr. When I first started doing stand up, he was he had, you know, been kind of like a mentor in the beginning and stuff, like a big brother almost in the business. And I had sent him my first tape and, you know, that I did at Caroline's, and he watched it and gave me some pointers and legitimately just kept in touch with me, like as I was doing stuff, and kind of kept an eye out. And then we wound up becoming close friends. So yeah, we've known each other since for like almost 15 years now, and he's been great.
What is the best thing about being John Poveromo?
I'm going to go with the hair, man. Don't know a lot of guys who still have a full head of hair my age, so yeah.
Something that I have noticed is that it does seem like there is a bit of resentment from bald guys from people who have a full head of hair.
Well, you have to understand they're grumpy because they're cold. You know, they can't. Winters are rough, man.
Anyone out there, they can visit the website. It's johnpoveromo.net. Poveromo. I always like to give my guests at the end of the interview, just give them the stage. Just let them take the microphone. Whatever you'd like to say to our audience.
Oh, this is when I should have some kind of thoughtful message. I think, you know what? I love, there's a quote that I always think about all the time, and it's a Vonnegut quote. And I feel like, you know, especially in today's climate and world, it applies, but he basically says, and I urge you to please notice when you are happy and exclaim or murmur or think at some point, if this isn't nice, I don't know what is. I think that's, you know, I try to do that almost every now and then. If you're just having lunch with a friend, or, you know, if you're out to eat or whatever it is, and if you feel happy in that moment, just take it in and, you know, live in it and acknowledge it, you know, and just be like, this is great, no matter what it is.
Nice. Well, John, thanks so much for spending time with us.
Yeah, thanks, man. It was great.
All right. Till next time.
Yeah, take care, dude.